What can I say about these two guys other than they're probably two of the best humans that I've met on the planet? Honestly, Jay, Jean-Luc are amazing human beings. It's great to just sit around and speak whatever's on our mind and kind of let loose and just talk about all the things that we think about every day and not be judged and have fun with it and bring some enjoyment to all of you. And hopefully you learn something. And if not, watch it again and watch it next year and 5 years from now. I really hope you enjoy this. I love these guys. Dream team. Dream team.
I'll think pictures up your face. Look at that.
Hey.
And then it's like normal, pixelated and wrinkled, and then I'm like smooth and baby smooth again. Look at that.
Are you applying filters? Are you putting filters on yourself?
I'm just putting touch up my appearance, man. Hang on. If I find a clown nose, maybe I can make
this is how I accidentally put fake eyebrows on myself for about 10 interviews. I had no idea, and it was like the thickest gauge eyebrows that they had available on there as well, like these crazy big things. And I look back at the old interviews, and I'm like, holy shit, they're like 3 times the size of my normal eyebrows.
I love it.
Well, hang on a second.
I love it because you would do this and go down, and the fucking eyebrows would stay.
I know, and then hover about and shit, like talking to like fucking Leslie Kane and people like that with my eyebrows like vibrating on my face. Like,
I thought it was amazing.
I did too.
Yeah, people miss it. People miss it. People want it back.
I should put it back right for this interview. Put it back for this one.
Oh shit! No, I said I would. I would. I'm going to do it because I said that I would put them back on for the Dream Team chats.
Well, how do I do this? Because I'll put them on too.
let's all put something on our face.
Choose video filter.
It's somewhere. Somewhere
on. It's on the video filters.
Where was it?
Oh yeah, it looks like sunglasses, a party hat. It's by the hats. There's like the mustache.
There we go. Video filters. Here we go.
I don't have any of this stuff at all, man.
I've got to download a package, but I'm just downloading the package.
What is it? Just have a look at my real eyebrows.
If you go to background and filters, is there not a video filters thing? I've got Halo now.
Oh,
very cool.
I like it.
Very cool.
I'm trying to find what else can I be a pirate? Oh, look at that.
Look at this one.
There we go. I'm a pirate now.
Sunglasses.
I've got no idea what I'm doing, man. Oh well, I'll leave it at that. Wow, you guys are so cool, man.
I know, we've got some crazy cool shit. I've got like a little French beret.
Yeah, there you go.
I've got that.
See, I like that.
I don't need
3D glasses.
I don't need the filter because I can't make it work.
It probably won't end up saving anyway.
Anyway,
yeah,
come
it's
on.
Good to see you guys.
Hit me up with some awesome news. And you.
Who's got the news? I haven't got any news.
I don't know. You've just been doing bang up interviews. Been doing great so far. I think you've been doing an amazing job, as always.
Well, thank you, sir. As of you. I've
gone down the woo-woo train.
Interesting guests recently.
There's
nothing wrong with the woo-woo train, bro. Woo-woo train's all aboard, man. All aboard for that.
I love it. I love it a lot.
I love the woo-woo.
Yeah, Duane, she wants me to send you her love, by the way. She wants me to send both of you her love. She loves you guys a lot. Is just so excited about everything that you guys say, and she's a hip lady. I like her. She's really cool. Her book is interesting. It's pretty rad.
She is cool.
It's been.
Did you read the book then? You read it through?
Yeah, I read it through.
Did you read it all through, dude?
I did.
Yeah?
I did.
Cool,
I did.
man.
I highlighted it. I had a bunch of different thoughts. I gave it to my mom, and she read it, and she liked it a lot too. So it was interesting. It's interesting to see how, because for me, it's just bizarre how she goes from like fundamental Christian, which is like everybody's going to hell unless they save you, right? Look at Jay's face.
Ooh, cool. Pixel glasses, man.
It's like she's like everybody's going to hell. Unless that she goes to that like strict thing to like the way other end of that, where she's like a fucking fundamental Christian, like, or not. I mean, a psychic, where she's talking to entities that are fucking from a consortium, right? And it's like, okay, cool.
Yeah,
Good for
so
her.
she's one of these people who's had like a massive transformational arc of belief systems and where she fits into that whole thing. It's a bit like Ryan Bledsoe as well, to be honest.
Yeah, good comparison. And that's actually how she found us, by the way. So she's like all aboard.
Really?
She was all aboard Chris Bledsoe and everything he does. And then she saw Ryan started doing stuff. And then she saw us talking to him when we had that One Dream team. And then she was like, oh, that's how she found all of us. So
yeah, we'll have to get Ryan back. I'm having him on soon. I'm having him on. We were meant to be on the other day, but I needed a little break from interviews. I'd done too many in a row, so I was like, let's just wait a few days. But we're gonna hook up soon. And thing with Ryan is that he's such an interesting guy, especially now that he's got his podcast going on. Like the podcast, if you guys listen to Bledsoe,
oh yeah, man,
yeah,
dude,
yeah.
It's fucking great, isn't it?
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. I love it.
He's like, I'm not gonna do video now. He's got like different cameras and this whole set and all this stuff.
Whole setup, man. A whole setup.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's great. I've love to see his new trajectory, man.
Good stories to tell, mate. Like, I think that, I don't know, we've talked about this in the past. Like, if you've been brought up in a faith, this stuff comes a bit easier, maybe. I mean, it's hard to transition if you're in an area where people might be cross with you for leaving the church or whatever it may be.
Yeah, I suppose it depends on the circumstances, doesn't it?
Yeah, but the idea that you got that background already, that you can accept a faith and you've got belief, you've got the ability to believe, makes it easier when you switch, I guess. Like it's weirder when you go from no faith to faith.
Yeah,
like atheist to faith. Like
that's interesting, because if you read Pasalka's book, when she talks about Tim Taylor, whatever his real name, his fake name is, whatever, but he goes from no faith to Catholicism, which is to me, that's weird. That would be the last one I would go from no faith to full on Catholicism, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think that the idea that like what he's doing and talking about, and Diana Pasulka is sort of bringing the mysticism back into Christianity, because a lot of the narrative goes into different sorts of mysticism, doesn't it? Like the sort of Islamic Sufism or the Buddhists or the tantric, the Hindu stuff and all that. But a lot of the time, the Christian elements, it's always there, isn't it? And it's a big part of the narrative, but not as much as in terms of that mystical sense. Whereas like they bring that back in, don't they? The idea that they're communicating with these beings. Like,
well, Tyler D is supposed to be like getting patents from the Akashic records and selling them on the Nasdaq for millions of dollars per patent, isn't he? That's kind of. It's funny. I've literally been listening to American Cosmic on audiobook for the past couple of days. So this is a good talking point. I was the last bit I got to is where she gets taken to the the gifting fields, the place where there was supposed to be debris and stuff like that. It's a really good book. I'm going to be having her on, I think in sometime next month or in April.
Rad.
She's got a new book.
You should read up on. There's a group of people, or a Catholic sect, who I've been reading up about, called the Ordo Angelorum Sanctorum. So the order of the angels, basically. Mm-hmm. And
they've always got these dope Latin names, haven't they?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's it. Yeah, I mean, but this one was founded in the 40s, and it's been pretty controversial because they believe in it's called angel work. So they're sort of basically working on the idea that they're trying to summon and talk to and communicate with angels. And
is this all in the Catholic Church? They're okay with it?
And the Pope for a long time. Well, there's been quite a lot of controversies, but guess where you'll find them? A lot of them.
America. Oh,
Fatima.
Fatima.
Yeah, they heavily believe in this idea of the lady and stuff. But the controversy with it all as well is that they were apparently practicing, at the time when there was a controversy, that they were practicing kind of a mysticism, like a sorcery stuff, witchcrafty type things.
They were doing rituals then, huh?
Yeah, and for a lot, but they kept arguing that they had a place in the Catholic Church. And the lady who set this thing up was this lady called Gabrielle Bitterlich. I don't know. That's how you spell it, Bitterlich. And she's from Bavaria, and she said that from an early age she was having visions of like angels and talking to them and stuff. When a lot of the investigations got put in, because when they wanted to become like a designated order of the Catholic Church, and when the investigations were going forward, they found that they were sort of practicing Enochian magic and some of the Crowleyan sort of stuff. It's been, but they've been accepted. They're allowed to do it, but you need to check that shit out. And when you speak to Diana Pasulka, you need to talk to her, man, because that's all that stuff. That's channeling angels and getting divine information from. Well, I don't think they'd call it the Akashic record, but yeah, the Akashic record. It's wild, isn't it?
Yeah, what do you guys think about like channeling? And because like the idea of receiving information intuitively, that's something that I think, yeah, absolutely. But I mean, when it comes to like the Council of Nine or the Intergalactic Council, do you think that these things are real?
It's a really touchy subject. Like, well, not touchy subject, but like the nine for me, like, because I sort of, that's my cup of tea. I bought that pretty heavily, but of course, the more I bought it, being me, the more I read about it, and it makes you sort of, there's holes in there. There's holes in those stories, and there's other motivations for the fact that the nine might have appeared. And we talked about this, I think, before, didn't we? Like that Lynn Picknett's book, The Serious Conspiracy. The idea that some of this stuff was manufactured with a bigger plan in mind, like a long plan, decades-long plan.
Oh, is that you mean the Stargate conspiracy? Or is it the Serious Conspiracy?
That's it. Sorry, not the Serious Conspiracy, the Stargate Conspiracy. Yeah. So, like, I mean, I like that book because I sort of got into it because it was looking at because I was thought, this is just basically going to cement all of the cool stuff I want to believe about that whole mythos and conspiracy. And they kind of explode it, but they also explode it in a cool way because they are believers still in extraterrestrial life, and they are believers in psychics, and they are believers in, the mysteries and all this stuff. So they're like kind of, I guess, like a bit like more like me, I don't know. I have to research it, man, because before I go out there and try and talk about stuff, I need to have a proper opinion on it, and I don't want to fall into that trap of being like, I believe.
Well, I want to read the Stargate conspiracy, because did you see the thing that I tweeted? This was Bruce Fenton dug up this information, but one of Senator Kirsten Gillibrand's donors was what was it? Something Bronfman from the Bronfman family. And her
NXIVM cult stuff.
Yeah, so the woman who was the donor from the Bronfman family was one of the heads of the NXIVM cult. But then her auntie was like really involved in the Council of Nine channeling, and she was mentioned in the Stargate conspiracy book by Lynette. So there's this weird. It's an interesting thread. I mean, people have kind of had to go at me for like attaching, their conspiracy stuff to Kirsten Gillibrand, but it's not necessarily that. It's just the fact that it's interesting that a very prominent family who has a bit of a weird history with cult and paranormal and interest in that field is donating towards a senator that's pushing UFO transparency. I think that's quite interesting.
I totally agree, man. And I think that the best thing you can always do with extreme claims coming from important individuals or people in the public sphere is to investigate usually their family, especially in this field. Mm-hmm. And that sounds weird, but it always seems to play out, man, because as soon as you start looking behind the scenes, you go, all right, there's a little bit of there's a game in play here. So their dad was kind of into this stuff, or their mum was kind of into this stuff, or they've got a connection. It's that 6 degrees of separation. And sometimes it's 1 degree of separation. And then you start seeing it and going, okay, all right. But it's how it works, man. Like, I mean, secret beliefs and secret societies and cults, they don't run around saying that they're in a cult. Like a lot of it's just completely secret. So they're just and
they don't believe they're in a cult either, though. That's the thing. Nobody ever says, yeah, I'm in a cult. They always think I'm in this thing that's going to change the world. We're going to bring everybody together in peace.
Until you're getting branded and used as a sex slave.
Drinking Kool-Aid and killing yourself.
That was a bad time for you, wasn't it, Jean?
It was. And when I got out, it took me a long time to get over. but the brand is pretty cool.
Once you reach, what was it, like the 600th level of Scientology or some shit?
Oh, wow. Jeez,
man.
Did you guys see Senator Gillibrand kind of shutting down the NSA Inspector General on UFOs?
Yeah. Basically, if you don't know what it is, she basically just told him, "Hey, are you up to date on any of this stuff?" And he was like, "I have no idea what you're talking about." And she's like, "Well, you need to do it before we're gonna like." And he's not even like he's not even the new guy yet. Has he been like stamped and approved?
I think he's in line to become the DOD Inspector General. So he's currently NSA IG, and he's going in for the position of DOD IG. So she was basically saying to him, before you get into this position, are you going to familiarize yourself with all of this? And basically just like handed him his homework, and it was just
and said, "Do it in writing." He's like, "Do it in writing before you get like a point."
Yeah. Like she was like, "Well, since you're not aware of this issue, can you please make yourself aware of this issue and then give us a confirmation of your understanding of this in writing?" And then there's a pause, and he just kind of goes, "Yes, ma'am." Buries his head in the desk. It was quite a funny little clip.
What do you think? What do you think? Right, the government, pushing the UAP issue. If there isn't really any danger from them, right? Let's say there is a danger from them and it's worth pushing it. But if there isn't really, why would people with a few generation connections to a cult and so on and so forth be actively pushing it in government?
Money. There's money to be made from the whole thing. That's got to be. I mean, it's always we need to it's either for defense or the tech or all of those things, or even just the research of them.
Could just be a genuine interest. I mean, if that family, like the Bronfman family, if they've got some loose connections to being interested in the paranormal,
magic and stuff, and
maybe,
and it's like, Nexium, like, I don't know. I mean, like, you got connection to that shit. It's like you kind of like your weird.
Well, yeah. To be fair, the one that actually donated the money was a former head of the Nexium cult. So, it's not exactly a loose affiliation. She was literally one of the people running that thing, and is obviously really into the paranormal. So, I mean,
but to be fair, though, that could be. I'm like, if you're running for office and anybody wants to hand you money, you're not going to be like, I don't want that money.
Oh yeah, no,
you're going to be like, oh, give me the money. They don't get
the way it goes, especially in DC, right? You're going to have to rub shoulders with people you don't want. You've got to have those donors. You've got to have that money for your political campaigns, all that kind of stuff. So it's just a circus, isn't it? Yeah.
I'm on, it's like at the minute with all this Ukraine Russia stuff, and they're just going like, right, we're going to have to put sanctions on the Russians. And then they go, we better not put sanctions on the Russians because all their money's tied up in London. And it's just all these like weasel words, and it's just like, oh, you're not really going to do it.
We're all in bed with each other, like every single one of us. They're all in bed with each other in different ways. And then on the surface level, it's like, oh, we have these disagreements, but money at the end of the day, money. That's all it really is. The whole Ukraine Russia situation's been crazily overinflated, I think, by the Western media. I mean, like it's bordering on like provocation of war, like borderline provoking this kind of stuff, and it's not a good look.
Man, I hope that as we're recording this, like a massive war ain't breaking out.
You guys will be allowed to hear it before me.
I've already made it. Like I've already made my position on this via Twitter quite clear. And so if I'm wrong, I'm going to look like a right muppet.
Well, I think that you've sometimes you run with your feelings, don't you? And there's plenty of people running with those feelings. Yeah, like I look at it and think, it stinks, man. Like it stinks, but it stinks on both. It's just, it's so stinky.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Well, my thing is, like, I was telling you guys, like, well, what the fuck? What are they distracting us from? Like, what is this big show that we're talking about and everybody's talking about going on here? Like, what is going on over here that we shouldn't even be looking at? It's probably happening.
It's probably like some Stargate opening up in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean or some shit, and they're just like, don't worry about that. Don't worry about the Stargate.
Yeah, worry about these Russians, and the Russians are like, okay, we'll put our people.
I'd like if it. I reckon it's probably more like worry about the Russians and don't worry about us. Because if you're worrying about the Russians, you're not worrying about your own shitty governments, like doing shitty things to you. Yeah. Like, I mean, I can't speak for America because I'm not there, but our, Jesus, man, like our news, our political news and all that stuff over the last, forever, but the last couple of weeks is just an obscenity. Yeah. It's like, oh, man. Seriously.
I've tuned out. I've totally tuned out.
It's like watching a Roman orgy. Like, like a debauched sort of like, yeah, we'll just do what the fuck we want, yeah.
Well, we've recently, you've seen the settlement with Prince Andrew. Prince Andrew's £12 million settlement to kind of
right
stop
under the rug,
being incriminated, just right under the rug with the Queen's money, which means it's probably the taxpayers' money, which means that we basically paid for that guy to be let off and scot-free and be able to walk away from the situation. So yeah, that was a fun little thing.
You know how like the little players though, man, because apparently he's got some house that he's always had, like which is like a big royal house in Windsor, and I think that they're asking him to leave it, so he's got to leave, but they're going to pay him $7 million, I think, to leave.
Oh man, I remember. To be fair, yeah, like I remember when I last got paid $7 million to leave a house.
So he says it's because he like installed a new kitchen and like did a few renovations here, and it's just like, dude, like $7 million.
What was it made out of? Unobtainium.
Just. You know, when you're just listening to it and just going,
unicorns'
people are just
tears.
disgusting, yeah? It's bizarre. It's like I had my mum and dad round here yesterday, and my dad's clued in. He knows what's what. But my mum's still hanging on to the idea that the Queen's like, and the royals are some form of deities, yeah? And I'm just going, so, reptiles, man. What do you think about all this? And, you know, like, she goes, the Queen will be so devastated in her jubilee year. I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ, it's sickening. Like, Mum, have a good look, right? Do you not think she knew about any of this stuff?
Yeah.
And I just listed off a load of things, and my dad's in the background just going like,
stop it. Just
like,
I mean, you know, how many
I have to deal with this, man. Like, I'll have to go home.
Yeah, what are you doing? You're getting her all fired up. But it's true though. Like, you know, I mean, how many times do these people have to be associated with child abusers before we start going that maybe there's a pattern emerging here? Because this isn't a unique situation. Just in terms of the modern, because I mean, we can go back to like Catholic priests and people that were very close within the church and politicians. There's quite a few different ones, but in terms of like really notable cases, you've got Rolf Harris, who did the Queen's portrait and he turned out to be a paedophile. Then you've got Jimmy Savile, who could literally just walk in and out of Buckingham Palace as he pleased. He spent multiple Christmases at Chequers, which is where the Prime Minister spends his Christmas. He could just go in and out of all of the high establishment of society in British society. And now you've got Jeffrey Epstein. It's like, come on, how many times does this family have to be at the epicenter of abuse and really, really bad treatment before we start going, maybe it's the family? Because I don't know any families who are friends with sex offenders.
No, and like, you know what I mean?
If it happened once, that would kind of be it. You know what I mean? You'd be on your guard after that. And you got to remember, like, you know, these people, they have MI5 vetting all of the people. You know, like, they've got like the whole intelligence service of the British, you know, establishment vetting people that come in. And you're telling me they allowed 3 separate paedophiles to just walk straight through Buckingham Palace? Like, it's
insanity, yeah. Like, and then at the same time, like, you know, like, I don't want to be one of the tinfoil hats on this, but you have the idea that you had the Westminster paedophile scandal over here, where, you know, like recently, and it got squashed. And the guy who had come out and said all the stuff about the high-ranking MPs over the years that had done these terrible things was then accused of paedophilia and thrown in jail. And now, like, that whole situation, the Westminster paedophile ring is a total taboo for anyone in the public media or the public eye to talk about, because then as soon as anyone says anything, they go, "Oh, it was a terrible lie," and besmirch these reputations and blah blah blah. But this very week in our Parliament, despite all that, Boris Johnson, to try and deflect abuse against, or the deserved abuse against him for his recent conduct, used an allegation against the opposition leader, Keir Starmer, about him failing to what's the right word? Prosecute Jimmy Savile back in the day, because Keir Starmer was accused of Queen's Counsel.
I did not see this. I did not see this.
He did. And then, but he got hammered for it, because immediately everyone was like, "What? You just used that in like Prime Minister's question times in Parliament?" Like, he just went, "Well, I didn't see you try and prosecute Jimmy Savile. Did I, Keir Starmer?" I'm like, whoa. Wow. And all the newspapers was like, everyone distanced themselves straight away. But you start going, hang on a sec. So this thing where like everyone tells to shut up about this scandal and all this, and the links to paedophiles, and then now your own leader of the country brings it into one of the debates, which is broadcast on our TVs. Like, so is it bullshit? Should we forget about all this stuff, or are you actually going to use it as political?
Yeah,
It's disgusting, man.
How many times does it have to crop up? I mean, it's so obviously like this really dirty secret that's being continuously shoved under the rug, and every time there's evidence that this is actually happening. It's continuously happening. I'm aware of the background. Don't worry, I'm going to now monitor what I'm saying.
I tell you what. Over here at the moment, like you can't really get away from it because it's just like, oh look, there's Prince Andrew, and there's Prince Andrew again.
Literally, it was just like one blurb and it was just gone. Nobody's talking about it over here at all. Just like, oh, okay, whatever.
It's like Maxwell as well. Like she's just kind of disappeared from the headlines.
Yeah, I thought she was supposed to come out and like name all the names. I thought that was the last thing I read. It was the big deal. Like, oh, she said they're gonna, the sealed names. They're gonna talk about the sealed.
She's probably just dead.
Who knows?
Maybe
just dead, man.
I don't think so.
She got picked up by a Foo Fighter and flown to Antarctica to the palace, the ice palace.
I've seen that connections with her and Cousteau and the whole Atlantis thing, and it's fucking weird.
Yeah, I love all that crazy shit, man. Do you want to just take it like utter weird? It's like, and then the craft would have come from Argentina and taken Epstein's body and revived him in a biochamber, and now he's fine underground in Hollow Earth.
He's 7.
Have you seen the artwork that one of the victims painted that had like loads of UFO style things?
Yeah.
It was like a mural of all of the different people, and you had like Les Wexner as like the head of a snake, and all these other politicians connected to him, and then there was like a flying saucer over Epstein's house, and it's like, like what's going? Because people, this is that thing, right, where a lot of people are like, do these elites who we're hearing about, who have very suspicious behaviors, do some of them have a hand in UFO secrecy, or is that outside of their purview? Like, the World Economic Forum and the top tier of the World Economic Forum, and do you think they know? Do you think they have intel?
Yeah. Oh fuck yeah! I think they do.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, shit, man. I don't know.
I propose the idea that there's certain people picked as well to have fake experiences played on them.
Oh yeah,
so you can talk about it and create an entire mythos forever. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
So like, some people like there were sort of ones who are going to get picked up to become sex slaves on billionaires' islands. They're probably quite easy to apply with certain MK Ultra techniques and fuck with their heads and so on and so forth. Like, because that's what those people do, innit? Like,
I mean, they're always subjected to all that shit, and they also have the ability to just weasel that shit in there and just think of no thing. But I think it all revolves around the occult, and I think that the more you get into it, the more we've been researching. It's not more like the UFOs are an ancillary thing that happens when you start doing these stupid fucking rituals and whatever you're doing and all this other, old school weird shit that you're supposed to do for power or money or shit. Jean-Luc, you told me about Archive 81, that series on Netflix. That's a mind fuck right there. When you get into all that, this is still kind of thing. Show. Like, it was great. It's like all this money and power.
I haven't got into that yet. I need to give it a chance.
Oh yeah, definitely along that line.
It's on point with this sort of stuff. The idea that ancient rituals open up portals, and then it gets into the whole time site loops and stuff like that, and time travel and dimensional travel and things like that. It's cool. Just check it out.
Yeah, man, it's pretty cool. But I mean, I think those are like one of the best shows that are out now. It's like all the shows like Dark and like all these other shows. Like these are the shows that people are watching, and like this is what's going on. Like that's just permeating to the top.
It resonates at some deep level of people. Like there's something about this that feels like it could be real, and it resonates with people on an intuitive level. I think some of these shows.
It is real.
But I think like it is real in some respects, yeah. And it is real. Like the different dimensions stuff are real. But at the same time, the idea that in the 50s, we've talked about this too, there was a certain type of narrative push. So every experience had was a chrome disc or something similar, or a cigar with some alien from Venus that says, "Hello, I want to show you the secrets of the universe." And then a bit later on, they become blonde. And then they become like lights in the sky and the greys and the Spielberg hopeful new age type. And then they become terrifying black triangles and all that shit. Now it's interdimensional, but the culture is driving that narrative because we'll be talking about it, and 6 months later there'll be another show about it, another 20 shows about it, and you kind of go, when you've been part of it, you start watching those shows, you go, oh my god, man, it's like they're releasing these things as some form of disclosure. Yeah, but then you go, yeah, but everything's themed in the same way, and if disclosure's happening, it's happening every decade with a slightly different vibe because it's following theories that people read online.
Well, I would love to see. I'd love to see more hopeful films. Like, Contact was such a great sci-fi film because it had such a hopeful message of exploration and these higher intelligences that just wanted to try and find other examples of life in the universe. And I feel like we've got so many xenomorph bursting out of the skin, melting your face, invading Earth, destroying everything. We've got all that terrifying shit. We don't have enough. I'd love to see more consciousness orientated and like positively orientated sci-fi films because we don't have enough of those. I was actually watching Contact not that long ago, like the other week, and it still gets me. I still cry. That film makes me cry every single time.
It's a good movie.
It's a great movie.
Yeah, man.
It's a great movie. Well, it's Carl Sagan that wrote that, isn't it? So like,
yeah, dude. Yeah.
Oh, I forget that. I always forget that.
The idea that the guy was a dude, like he was a great guy, wasn't he? And like, so that concept that he wrote it from that point of view, that it was hopeful, that it was
it's so weird that he went off of that. It's so weird that he started off like UFOs are real and then went into the more skeptical side of it later in life. I mean, there's all sorts of people that say maybe he was threatened or bought off or something like that. But there really was quite a drastic change in the way that he viewed it, like from being a pretty solid believer to being pretty skeptical.
Well, I think maybe and. My first thought about that is I wonder if he kind of fell into the whole Valet thing of needing hard evidence, like, because that was his whole bread and butter anyway, right? I mean, you could do this and we could all say we believe shit, we've all seen shit, whatever, but unless I have like this to tell, like this is what this is, there's no way that, how could you be credible as a scientist or take it as a matter of fact kind of a thing unless you had, something, not to say that you don't want to keep looking for it or keep researching or expand your knowledge into something that's tangible or like solid, measurable, remeasurable, things like that. But maybe he did that to kind of steer everybody away to like quit believing just everything you hear, kind of thing.
Well, it's a bit like Avi Loeb, because when I interviewed Avi Loeb, I listed off a couple of notable testimonies from people who kind of spoke
high-ranking officials,
spoke towards crash retrievals and the legitimacy of that, and it's that whole thing of like, I can maybe believe it, but not until I get my hands on something myself. That's the way that some of these people, and it's a good way to think. If you're a scientist, you're going to need to get your hands on the hard data. I get that. I still feel like he puts a bit too much trust in the US government and what they're saying about it. I think that, but I think that, I agree.
Honestly, I'll tell you what, though, man.
Tell us.
I was just going to say that I think some of the reasons behind that is that he's actually quite fresh into the UFO research game. His interest in this seems to have been catalyzed around 2017, and so he hasn't got like a really extensive research background into the kind of historical lore of programs and the Air Force, and I don't think he's done a deep dive on it.
I bet he's got an experience though with the sorts of people who tie their flag to this and then die on that hill, man. Like John Mack, even though for us, of a lot of people like us, he's a legend. Was he Harvard or Yale? I can't remember, but
I think he was Harvard.
Harvard.
And he kept his tenure and stuff, but behind his back, like by all accounts, like the general public and the other academics in his field were laughing at him. So, and that's the bare truth of it. But the guy obviously was a very intelligent man. That's the idea that you tie your flag to it and just go, "This is real." Like, I can see why he's not.
No, I can see that, but I think that the thing that kind of twinged me a bit was when he said that he doesn't believe in government conspiracies. He didn't even say UFO conspiracies. He said, don't even go. I was like, but there's evidence of like, Watergate, Pentagon Papers, Iran-Contra, like there's real conspiracies happen all the time. Like that's not something that's really very controversial. But I want to say that it's because he hasn't really looked into the involvement of the US government over a 70-year period, because it just feels to me like he's putting a lot of trust in what he's being told the US government's knowledge is. And
as a patriot, being patriotic, that's kind of what I suppose he's going to have to do, yeah, as a representative of this body, and to get the data, because like I suppose because if he's not just presenting hard data, which he says is coming from sources like the US government, and if you can't trust the US government, who can you trust? Yeah. Like really, that's what in Harvard science is pretty much going to have to say, and because really you can't say, well, let's face it, it might all be lies, yeah.
I don't expect him to freak out on my interview and start saying that the US government is hiding all this stuff. Like I was never expecting him to say that, but I think that's not what I mean.
I just mean that it's sort of, you got to hedge your bets in this stuff, because unless you're an experiencer or whatever, because otherwise it's like, you don't want to be that guy, do you? Who in 5 years' time kind of it's like, oh, what happened to that guy? Oh, he ended up coming out and doing his group, and now no one wants to have him lecture anymore.
But that's not what I'm seeing happening. There is genuinely a growing increase in open engagement from the academic community, the scientific community. I mean, it was great seeing Eric Weinstein sit down with Hal Puthoff, because I felt like, I don't know if you guys have seen that interview, but it was definitely interesting, just kind of watching him grapple with the responses from Hal Puthoff, and realizing that this guy isn't a moron, like he isn't an idiot. He knows how to speak the lingo that Eric Weinstein knows how to speak. And suddenly this guy's telling him that there are programs and there is maybe hidden science and hidden, like that was fascinating to me. And I think that people like Eric being engaged, I've said this like loads, but he's continuing to stay in the game. So I think that people like him are going to push it out, and the Galileo project is probably going to push it out. And
well, that's a thing though. They said that was a thing, and sorry to interrupt you, but they said that that was the thing that they were going to do, that they're going to reach out to academics and get them involved. And it's Lex Friedman said it. Who was the other guy besides Weinstein? Sam Harris. They all said that we've been contacted by some people in the government to let us know that this is real and ask us to help bring it out. Literally, we can go back and pull those things up.
Sam Harris was saying that he had like a Zoom meeting with like a bunch of, I think, both former and active members of the US, like senior level representation as well. So I mean, like Sam Harris seemed to have got a pretty decent sit down and talk to about this subject, but he hasn't been as vocal as Eric about it. He seems to have kind of stepped back from it, which is weird. I thought
I think they're all pegs in the hole they're trying to fill. So Sam Harris is going to be the consciousness guy. We're going to teach about meditation and how you can talk to these things with your mind. And Eric Weinstein's going to be the guy that tells you how the physics works behind all of this shit. And then, Nolan is going to come out and say, look at this metal does this shit. And like Jean-Luc, I mean, tipped me onto this a long time ago. It's like, they have this book and they need to figure in all these cast of characters. They're like, all right, we need a military guy. Okay, check Lou Elizondo. We need the former senator, intelligence. Oh, get Chris Mellon. We need that guy. Oh, we need some scientists. Get the scientists. We need some scientists. We need some artsy people. Let's get some artsy people. Let's get, they're like making this menagerie of all these people that they're going to try to bring together and go, we're going to satisfy every single one of the demographics. For the hippies are going to be cool with it. The peace people are going to be cool with it. The war people are going to be cool with it. The politicians, like, they're doing it, man. That's just what's going on.
I don't know how you satisfy all of those groups at once. I don't know how you satisfy all of them at once.
It's slow. It takes time.
You cover a small percentage of each demographic, and that small percentage of each demographic, as it spreads, gets more and more big. Bigger and bigger, and you see it happening because there is this narrative, and this is the narrative that's being presented in Congress meetings by 6 degrees of separation to the Nexium cult. I'm serious.
The process church or whatever.
It's like, but it's true, and this is the Porsche that's making it to government, and this is the one that you're seeing in the newspapers. You're not seeing any of the other stuff, and that's because it's worked. It's gone across that demographic. That's why Avi Loeb has joined the Galileo project. That's why Tom DeLonge, the rock star, started TTSA. That is because, I don't know, man. I don't want to be the guy that's going, it's this reason, but I strongly believe that this is probably the case. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I got a good rash feeling behind that too. And I don't want, and I'm not saying it's for a negative reason. I'm not saying this for like a negative. I'm not saying it's for like a negative reason though. Yeah, pigs can fly. It's a thing that happens. But like seriously, I mean, like I think that maybe at some point they used DeLong, or DeLong was a big part of it to say, this is how we get this out here and make you guys not look like assholes and still get it out. And I think that that's the way it works.
Imagine it's imagine it is going down that route of the whole kind of let's get it out. So I mean, if we go with what the narrative is from that side of things, from America, what's going into the government, the people representing that, that's a great look, Jay. I wish I could do that, man.
You can.
It's currently, was it currently that there's another type of human that there's possibly reptiles? Yeah, is that right?
I don't know. I haven't been following that track because I feel like it's a dirty trap and I don't want to go down it. And that's just
you'll know more about this, won't you, little Bo Peep?
Yeah, yes, please.
So, do you know that chap, Jon Ramirez?
Oh yeah.
So is he like kind of on? Is he legitimate? I haven't been following it. So is he part of like Lou and that lot?
Is he part of what?
Lou's team.
Is he like? Did Lou and those guys know him? Are they sort of like?
He I think Jim Semivan knows him because they're both CIA. But he's legit. He's legit. The thing is, I can't put out like the things that he sent me just because some of it's sensitive career information. But he sent me like all of his background information that I would need to be satisfied that he's legit. Like
I
kind of
his legit. Yeah, like I'm just interested, like, because he's legit. Say he's legit, and then say Lou's legit, but Jon Ramirez talks about reptilians. Yeah, is that right?
Yeah. So he thinks that there is a hybridization thing that's been going on for thousands of years. Like he does believe that there is probably some extraterrestrial involvement in our early hominid, genetic manipulation and how we progressed evolutionarily. So I think that he's not saying I'm CIA and I'm telling you that we're reptile hybrids. He's not saying that.
No,
some people are conflating it. He very much he always says, when he says that kind of thing, and he said it in the presentation when we talked about it, that this is just his own opinion, it's his own speculation, just based on putting pieces together and coming to his own personal conclusion that he thinks that there is some sort of reptilian contingent involved in long-term genetic manipulation of the human species. So I mean, the thing is, you look back throughout history and all the reptilian symbology and all of the kind of
snakes,
the snake in the Garden of Eden giving us the apple of knowledge, and all of these very strange things about how and the DNA sequence being the two the two snakes intertwined. There's a lot of different things that point towards it in symbolic, suggestive ways throughout historical culture. So I mean, I get why he has these feelings, and he also seems to have information that I don't think he's willing to talk about that has further informed him. But he's putting out he's currently making a presentation pretty much dedicated to this idea of hybridization. And I'm hoping to get him back on when he's got that ready, and we'll go through that presentation, because the first one he did was great, and it's actually the most.
I really liked it.
Yes, it's the most viewed video on my channel at this point.
Well, I mean, for me, it's kind of like, I don't know, when you sort of start putting it together in terms of the narrative that's being given out from the ex-CIA chaps and and I don't know, the various three-letter agency types, but if they're all starting to tie together and there's a common thread, I just wondered if there was, because like I say, I haven't really been following it that much. But
well, there is in terms of Lou Elizondo was talking about DNA hide, and somebody put it together, and I think that he was talking, following the breadcrumbs. It was like Lou was talking about DNA would be a place to hide, to hide whatever, or have a message encoded, and at one time early on, he said that how would you be able to it was I'm paraphrasing, but basically he was like, what if all of a sudden we woke up and found out that some people that are in our own communities are not like us, and how would we treat that? Like that was one of those things. You guys remember what I'm talking about, where he said that in one of those interviews?
I remember, and he said a few things about this, and about how one of the most compelling signatures for an extraterrestrial intelligence could be encoded within our DNA, and I think that's a very, I've heard this crop up a few times recently, the fact that there's so much quote unquote junk DNA. They just kind of disregard it. Oh yeah, we don't really know what that does. Must be just junk DNA. No, I think that's DNA that's maybe dormant, waiting to be unlocked, waiting to be utilized in a certain way.
We just don't know how it works.
We just don't know how it works. So maybe that's the part of that mystery, is if we can unravel what's going on with the so-called junk DNA, maybe we discover a little bit more about the human genetic lineage and our story. He said it a few times. He's hinted a few times, but I don't think that John Ramirez is part of like quote unquote the Lou, Chris, Jim crew. Like he's not someone, to my knowledge, that's been like heavily connected with those guys. He did say that at one point him and Lou were working in the same office, like the same building, but they never met each other. He just knows now, based on what Lou said, that they were once working in the same building and must have crossed paths in the canteen or something, but he didn't know Lou and Lou didn't know John. So John's a cool guy, man. He's in my Discord chat. He's one of the guys that's in my Patreon Discord chat, and he's very clued in with the whole consciousness side of this. He's very much into the whole consciousness side, so that always scores points with me. But people, I don't know, like some people have said, oh, he's CIA, you can't trust a word he says, but I really don't understand that sentiment, because if you listen to what he's saying, I mean, especially if you listen to the presentation that he did with me, he's just providing like you can research everything he's saying in the presentation about the way that the US intelligence community operates and all the different programs, blah, blah, blah. Like he's just giving you a legitimate overview of how the intelligence community operates, and then gives you some hypothetical scenarios of how they may handle UFOs. And then he speculates at the end about what he thinks might be the truth. And none of that comes off as suspicious to me. He's not saying like, look, the reptilians are taking over the world and they've been embedding themselves. He's not saying that stuff. So I actually think that he's one of the more credible people to emerge out of the intelligence community over the years.
Okay. That's cool, man. No, it's interesting. Because like I said, there's so many things to follow up on. So I always get stuck into the history.
Yeah, dude.
It's easier to sort of track that down, because the present stuff's always changing so fast, and to stay on top of it.
Speaking of history, did you guys see that whole "Who is Lou" documentary? Who is Lou? Who is Lou?
I saw it had been taken down.
It had been taken down.
Yeah, they took it down. I have to admit, right, I watched like 20 minutes of it, and then I was stop fucking saying "Who is Lou?" Like, who is Lou? I was like, I'm so tired of you saying this shit. Like,
what was the conclusion then? Who's Lou?
Fuck, I don't know. I don't think they had one.
I don't think they even had it.
I couldn't watch the whole thing either. I couldn't, but still, it just went on and on and on.
I mean, like, if no offense to the guys that made it, but if the production value was a little better, I might have hung around for longer. But I was just getting to the point where I was like, I think I've heard "Who is Lou" 20 times now, and I'm not going to get that out of my head. So I've got to get rid of this now. So
it worked, whatever they were doing.
Certainly caused up a little bit of a storm on Twitter, didn't it? Certainly kicked the hornet's nest a little bit.
Well, I mean, it's though somebody did is just dig through public record searches of like this guy forever, and like then just make some baseless claims based on publicly related searches. But you could draw your own conclusions on anything. Like, hey, I went to this high school, and that high school, blew up. And did I do it? Probably, since I was part of this. Right?
Who is Lou?
I had a horse and it died, and I killed it. It was me. I don't know. Like, none of this shit makes any sense.
It's I don't know, man. I don't know.
But I think the heart of the thing maybe makes sense in the and I'm trying to tie it back to what you're talking about, Ramirez and like the ex-CIA guys and stuff. It's like, well, how do we? I mean, even if you presented somebody had a squeaky clean, like everybody's like, here's everything I've ever done in my entire life. Oh, and I work for the CIA. Somebody would be like, oh, fuck. You know what I mean?
There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with being suspicious of these types of people. You got to do some like research. You got to do your due diligence, and you got to come to your own conclusion. But I mean, it's like, Has Lou done anything that outwardly makes me worried about who he is? No. But is he a counterintelligence officer that works for the US? Yes. Well, okay. Well, maybe there's some things there that I need to just be cautious with and not fully just embrace everything that's said by someone who has a counterintelligence portfolio. You know, I always go back to this whole thing of like we're quite happy to hang Richard Doty out to dry because he's a counterintelligence guy, which is understandable because he's been proven to have spread misinformation. But Lou's a counterintelligence guy, so why don't we maybe just treat that with a little level of skepticism? Like, you know, I don't have an issue with him, but I just think that some people need to just step back a little bit sometimes and go, all right, well, can we 100% trust what he's saying? I mean, you know, recently, and I'm not trying to take a dig at the guy, but recently he promoted that Sun article, the article in, it was about an NSA document. I know. Well, it was an article from the Sun, and for our American listeners and for other people who aren't in the UK, the Sun is what we call a shit rag. So it's just like an absolute terrible newspaper it became popular because for years on page 3, it just had tits all over the page. So, like, you know, it's not a reputable source of journalism, and I think that if you're going to just haphazardly quote the Sun and say that the NSA has the alien communication document, you need to really vet that article before you start promoting it. So it's little things.
I don't really know much about this, man. Like, what's
so like
I gotta get a couple copies of this. If there's tits on page 3, I'm all in.
So in
it's like recent, I guess it's recent, you're talking about. It's like us quoting the National Enquirer.
Yeah,
well, is that right?
Yeah.
So, but what happened was Lou Elizondo was on an interview recently with Jimmy Church, and he said, "Oh, well, you know, have you seen this document that got posted out by the Sun in the UK?" And it was this headline about how there was an NSA document, and it was talking about ET communication. And anyway, John Greenwald from the Black Vault kind of handled it and broke down how this wasn't really what it was saying it was. And, you know, it basically, the article was being pretty disingenuous, but it was the fact that he just referenced that as if it was the reputable source. It's like, dude, that's a newspaper that teenagers used to jack off behind hedges in. But, you know, like, it's like Hustler. It's like Hustler or something like that.
In this country, it's so unpopular with people, right? They can't even sell it in the entire city of Liverpool, right?
Yeah. The whole of Liverpool is banned the Sun.
Yeah, it was for serious reasons, man. Like, there was a massive stadium crushing Hillsborough back in the 90s. Loads of people died, and apparently it was the cops' fault, man. Like, they kind of like and the officials, they kind of didn't get the gates open in time, and everyone was rammed in and blah blah blah. But they tried to cover it up and blame it on the opposition team, Liverpool, who were playing Sheffield at Hillsborough. So they went, it was the Liverpool fans. They caused all and it went on for years, man. All these people died, and they blamed the Liverpool fans. And it was the Sun who pushed that. So Liverpool won't even sell the newspapers in their shops.
They won't sell the newspaper. Plus they got because it's Rupert Murdoch. Is it still Rupert Murdoch that owns the Sun?
I don't know, man. But yeah, probably. It's like just a rag, an utter rag.
Yeah.
Well, you know what's weird? I just thought about this. That the guy that started the National Enquirer in the United States and owned it and ran it was an ex-intelligence officer for the government, and I'm not joking. He was funded by the government. I swear, I found this at one point, and it was like a deal. Like I remember reading this whole entire thing about the guy who started it and funded it was intelligence, and somehow it had links back to the intelligence community in America for all kinds of different stuff. Believe it or not.
Yeah, it's nuts, isn't it? Like, do you know a lot of this stuff as well? Like, when you just do the little bit of searching, you find it always seems to happen. Oh, they were in Navy intelligence, were they? Oh, another one. Like, Jesus Christ, is everybody in America employed by naval intelligence? Well,
I don't know.
It's like every single story. Oh, you may have had a brief spell in naval intelligence. You may have thought my naval intelligence.
As you do.
Everybody's in naval intelligence. You in naval intelligence, John?
No, I'm not. I promise. And if I am, they haven't told me yet.
All right. Soon.
I haven't got there yet. Oh man, intelligence not happening. No. But You do. I don't know.
Intelligence.
Yeah, that's putting it in there, isn't it? I don't. It's amazing that you can do the things that you can do. The thing that got me was I took intelligence analysis in college. Right, it was a course I took for my degree, and the thing that really struck me was about how. This is the kind of way I frame things now when I see them, and I didn't really get this, but they explained, okay, the way some of the bigger crime organizations traffic large amounts of narcotics across the United States state lines is there's a 3-car system, and I didn't know any of this before I got this. There's one car in the front that's got somebody in it that's maybe got some tickets, maybe some bad records. Maybe these guys have to do something because they're being forced to by some kind of crime syndicate or whatever. And these guys are in the front. They're the front car, and they're going. If the speed limit's 70, they're doing like 110. They're going right. They're going as fast as they possibly can. Right. It's just to draw the cops to go pick those guys up. The car in the middle is like some older people you wouldn't even think about. They've got clean records. You wouldn't even know. A lot of times they're being blackmailed. Somebody's got kidnapped their family, something like that, whatever, right? They're in the middle car in like a van or whatever, packed full of drugs. They're going down the lines. If by some reason that car gets picked up by the police, there's a car behind them with the guys with the guns. These are the guys that don't, you know what I mean, that are the hardened guys that you don't even know exist, right? That just will roll up and just shoot the cops as soon as they pull over the other car and kill everybody and then just keep going. So
the cartels are so scary. Like I've watched quite a few different little documentaries, and it's so weird because it's so deeply embedded within legal structures as well that you wouldn't think it was. Like, it's just like the cartel is like a little weird transnational government thing. You know, it's got so many links to the intelligence community, and it's got there are decisions made to keep cartels in power because it's a strategic decision over a long amount of time. And, you know, you've got these kind of issues where it's like, right, well, we'll let this kingpin survive for now because we're looking for this person instead. Right. And so they let them thrive in certain areas, and it's such a terrifying thing, man. Like,
but nobody knows about that. And then what I think about that is like that whole analogy you can use for like anything that we see. Like I always talk about, like, what are they not trying to pay attention to? But like everybody's paying attention to that car doing 110. Like, whoa, wow. You know, nobody cares about the old people in the car in the middle. And you're maybe skeptical about the one back there, but that's the one you maybe should be worrying about, right? Like that's how I feel, like how intelligence analysis broke it down, you know?
I think that analogy fits really well with the royal family stuff. Like the royal family, like the old dudes trundling down, and in front of them are the hoons, the criminals, the people living in the ghettos, and so on. And it won't be us because we're the royals. Like, but really, it's them. Right, it's true. And they'd have some cop and some bad men behind them to shoot the cops when they start to get a bit close too, man. It's the same analogy. And you see it getting played out. It's wild. Babs, would you mind closing this off?
It blows my mind that in 2022 we have a monarchy. Like, it blows my mind.
I don't understand it either. I really don't. I'm just like, do you think it's just because of Disney?
Yeah.
They got to sell the movies into the kid. Like, the girls need to know the princesses, and I don't know.
I think it's just the fact that England is very old, and we have very, very old laws and rules and systems, and they've been in place for so long that it's just very hard to change these things. I think that when the Queen dies, I have a feeling that things will kind of collapse around the royal family a bit once the Queen dies, because I just don't think that people have the same.
Well, what about all the other monarchs, though?
Well, I just don't think people have the same level of affection. Even the older generations, I don't think they have the same level of affection as they did for Elizabeth. You know, the Queen. She's been the Queen for almost like 80 years, 90 years, or something crazy.
But doesn't like Denmark and other people? Don't other countries have fucking royalty? Like,
they do. Like, you got like the royal family of. What is it? You know,
Denmark or something?
Monaco,
Denmark.
There's a few of them. There's a few of them.
Yeah, but the thing with the royals is the fact that nowadays there's the internet, and there's people who actually can do some research and read and actually find this stuff out. Like, prior to the internet, it was just what the news told you and what was printed in books, and that was all that these people were gods, and that they were
now you can go, they really did kill Princess Diana. Holy shit!
Or you just follow it down and just be like, oh my god, it's disgusting. disgusting. Yeah, like it really would be if there were a family living on your estate, you'd be like, I don't want my kids to get away near them. Yeah. I wouldn't even want my dog near them.
It's a lovely area. Just be careful of the Windsors. Very dodgy looking family.
Yeah, I know, that's it. Big Nana Windsor's out the front, yeah. Andrew, I told you stop messing with them girls. Why did you do, man? Get down the shop and get me some fags, you stupid bastard. That's how it'd be if they were like working class, yeah. Mum, shut up. Yeah, I'll talk to Bobby, PC, whatever. Yeah, I've got some friends down at the police station. We'll take care of it. No problem. Do you know what I mean?
That's
totally but then stick them in a crown and put some gold around them, and it's like, yeah, do what you want, baby.
Yeah, it's all just pomp and pageantry, man. Keeps people.
But same thing with the Pope, right? I mean, you got to go back to that thing. It's like, how did that happen? Like, how is it still happening?
I am the one person that speaks to God for all of you. You can trust me. Don't worry about how you communicate with your divine intuition. I'm going to do that for you, and then that's how it works. Oh, and you pay me money. Yeah.
I talked about this in when I was talking to Duane, but I saw this thing was like a blurb. It was like, the Vatican was upset because they lost $1 billion in 2020 because of the pandemic. I was like, $1 billion, like upset about people didn't show up and hand them $1 billion. It's like, it's okay. They literally own everything, right? Like more land than any other. I think it was, I researched it at one time. They own more land everywhere on the planet than every other country combined, if that's possible.
It's basically like, I was something recently I was watching. It's true. It's like the Holy Roman Empire became the Holy Roman Church. So they went from being emperors to being priests. And it was just a transition with the same level of control, the same level of all of this, but just a different name and a different way of doing things. And so it's that idea that really all that we're under is exactly the same thing, the old school Roman Empire. Yeah. And it's continued like that forever, you know? Like,
have you guys sorry, go on, mate.
No, it's just, and then with the royals and stuff, like you got this concept that, you know, they broke away and we've got the Protestant British Isles with the Church of England that, you know, it's all bullshit because it all rubs along together. These people are all going to the same meetings and the same agendas, and you know it's true. Yeah.
One of my favorite lectures with Terence McKenna is one where he outlines his own theory for what would have happened if Jesus hadn't have existed and the Roman Catholic Empire had never come into existence, and how the kind of the technologies of the Greeks, like the Greco-Egyptian mystery schools and philosophies, were never destroyed by the Roman, because it was the Roman Catholics that burned down the Library of Alexandria and basically wiped out so much of that ancient knowledge. And what would have happened if they had been allowed to progress with the rate that they were at that time, without this sudden wipeout of the knowledge basis that we had before the Roman Catholics. And it was this really interesting, kind of hypothesis around how we would probably be a lot more advanced if we hadn't have had this sudden intrusion with this gigantic, cult of people that destroyed knowledge and burned down buildings and burned down books and took away all of this knowledge from the Greco-Egyptian cultures. And it was really interesting. I have to try and find it. It was one of those lectures where he kind of took it to the UFO issue. It went from, this is how the flying saucer people are the ones from the other Earth that didn't have this issue that we had, and they managed to get all of that lovely evolution without any problems, and they're the ones flying into our hyperspace and inspecting. Oh, this is the Earth where they didn't do that. Oh, look, they're still really back.
Well, I think Walter was telling me too, and you get it from Pasalka and from other sources, that all that shit really didn't get burned. I mean, the shit they didn't want people to have. True, but all of it is like under the Vatican, right? They just shoved it underneath there.
How crazy is it that the Vatican has basically a confidential, like a vast confidential archive that you can't access?
5 miles. It's 5 miles underground. 5 miles.
5 miles worth of historically sequestered information. How is that even
from all over the planet? All over the planet, not just like Europe, not like everywhere.
How is that?
I mean, the fact that you got like public knowledge, like stuff like the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Qumran scrolls, some of the sort of books that holy books that some Christian sects have taken on as being part of the Bible for them, and a lot of the major churches have said we don't want anything to do with it. But a lot of that stuff points to the fact that modern Christianity and how we know it's just a lie, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty sad.
I reckon they got straight up alien shit in those archives.
Well,
like something that would be like 100% there was intervention from extraterrestrials in our history. I reckon that is in those archives 100%.
I think that the psychic stuff would be more prevalent in them.
Yeah.
Like I know, the idea that, because I know in the Qumran scrolls, like they found them in the 50s or 60s maybe, but in that they're literally like going, it's like Sufism. It's like personal meditation. There is no churches. There is no, we're all equal. We're all, it's completely different to how you would have seen it.
The same way the same thing where you're
some of that basis.
You just need you're the only connection to divinity. You don't need the intermediary kind of.
Well, one of the stories in one of those books, and these are apparently legitimate, but you can read about them, like the Brotherhood of Light, I think they were called, against the Brotherhood of Darkness. So they literally believed that they were fighting a war of light against darkness on Earth. It's pretty crazy stuff, and this stuff doesn't feature in our battle. Like this, we're talking about a literal battle here. So when you start reading about it, and this is the stuff they leave out, unless you're in some sort of Ethiopian Christian sect, because I know that they kept a lot of that stuff, like.
Oh, I forgot about the mystical stuff. Yeah, the Ethiopian stuff. So, that whole sect did do that. I forgot.
Yeah. So, the Ethiopians believe they're one of the 12 tribes of Judah. I think that's how it goes, isn't it? So the idea that they've got a genetic bloodline straight back to the sons of Noah. It's wild, man. So, but they believe all that stuff, and so do other countries, man, and other churches. It's wild. It's wild. But we've chosen to disregard a lot of that stuff, and it's probably way more accurate than a lot of things that got put into the New Testament historically.
Can you go see?
What's this?
I was digging around in CIA's little FOIA library, and I found this document that was about Russian ESP research in the 1960s and just how far ahead they were in comparison to America.
Excuse me.
And it's super, dude. It's a super interesting little article. This guy, Professor Douglas Dean, had gone out to Russia, and some of the points that he says that they've achieved, like he says that they can now show that plants know when rain is coming hours in advance. It can demonstrate that when part of an organism is cut away, its life force remains in an eerie phantom form, and they've managed to photograph the phantom. It can make pictures. They can make pictures of the energy lines between people who are in telepathic communication with each other. I've been falling down this rabbit hole ever since I decided to take another look at Curlian photography.
Oh, right,
which is the whole idea of photographing the aura, like the kind of the electric coronal discharge around people's bodies. But
I did see that.
On that.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff. There's I fell down that rabbit hole because after we were talking to Warner and we got into that whole DNOS thing, I kind of went on which is that electric thing that you put on your body and actually heals you. It's like the handheld. I bought that thing and it works. I'm not bullshitting you. It literally works. Like my dad has had.
Wait, what's it supposed to do?
It's called a DNOS. It's like the size of a remote control for your television, and it basically it senses your electrical signals in your body, where your brain to the rest of your body, and it reads it, and it tells you where you put it on your arm, and to give a reading, and it basically tells you where the signals are wrong, because it's like a conductor, right? If you have something between two things, and if there's broken connections in between you won't get what you're putting in, you won't get the same output. So what it does is it senses that, it readjusts the frequency and says, oh, you need this. And then it puts electricity back into your body via this device, and it can connects that whole brain body chemistry electrical system and like heals your body. He said the cosmonauts would only take that one thing up with them to outer space. They wouldn't take drugs or anything else. They would just take this thing and they would heal their bodies with it. Yeah. So like, I was like, okay, bullshit. But my dad's had like 4 back surgeries. He's been in constant pain forever. And he uses it. I bought it for him and he's been using it. And he's like, this is the first time in like 40 years I don't have pain.
Oh man, I wish I'd known about that before I interviewed Timofey Igorov again, because I spoke to him like about a while ago. He's a trainer of Russian cosmonauts, so I reckon he'd probably be able to confirm if they use that device. And
the DNOS, it's called the DNOS. Yeah. But I'm sorry, aside, but that's really interesting because I started going down that hole, and there's like a whole, and I can't remember, but I have it in my research that there's a whole Russian straight up peer-reviewed science on the Carillion photography, but now they have it where you can just buy it, and it's a video though. It's like a webcam device and like all these things, and you can just like.
That's what it says in that document, and that's from the 1960s. That they had a full video, like they had a full video that the guy was amazed to see it because it was like a actual motion picture of someone's aura changing color in real time, and that was in the 1960s. So you can imagine now.
You can go on the internet and buy it for yourself right now. The Russians sell this thing that you can do that, and
so what the hell do they have in the black world? What is going on in the black world? Probably listening to my dreams. You know, like Putin's just got a remote control. He can just flick through every Westerner's dream like some Batman shit.
Maybe. Man, that's why I keep thinking about Putin all the time.
I will too.
That picture of him on the horse without his top on.
Bosoms just all out.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, he's made it. You know what? I don't know if it's a tactic. It might be a tactic. If it is, well done, because he's very much managed to convince the younger Western generation that he's badass out of memes, like all these riding on bears and shit. Like, you know, there's all of these memes of Putin being a badass, like shirtless on a bear in the winter,
judo master.
All this shit. And it's like, I wonder if that's been actually created.
It had to have been.
What about his biker mates? His Hell's Angels he rolls with. Yeah, well, they won't call themselves Hell's Angels, but the Night Wolves. Well, he rolls with them, man, on his massive bike.
The Night Wolves.
Somebody told me that Putin is, and I don't believe, I haven't done my research, but somebody straight up told me that Putin is literally one of the richest men on the planet.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like on the underground, like it's all hidden in with a bunch of different stuff. It's not like in his name. It's all hidden within a bunch of stuff, but he's like possibly the richest man on the planet.
Well, I mean, Russia's oil and gas, and that guy runs all of that. You know, he'll have all sorts of little, shares in pretty much every oil and gas venture in Russia. And then outside of that, numerous other business interests. So, I mean, you know,
there he is.
We've lost Jean-Luc.
There he is.
You see that?
Oh, there we go. Look at this. See, this is the thing, though. He's so easy to make memes out of being a badass because he actually acts like a badass.
Yeah, check me out, man. Just a total badass. Like him. Yeah. And like, look, have you seen those guys with him a lot, man?
Yeah, that guy isn't that guy some kind of weird esoteric thing too? Jean-Luc doesn't that guy?
Yeah.
Look at this dude's chopper, man. Look at his bike. Oh my god.
I know. He's called the Surgeon.
The Surgeon.
Wow. Seriously.
Of course he's called my name is the Surgeon.
These guys travel like the Baltics and Slavic countries, and they spread the word of like badass Russia orthodoxy. Yeah, it's like,
this is like definitely an American thing that they just ripped off, right? Like this whole thing goes back to the 50s, like greaser punk, like biker guys from the 50s in America. They've just hamstringed it and took it over to there.
I think that, like, I know that because you don't. Well, there is biker gangs in Great Britain. It's so small and condensed here. It's pretty hard for them to operate. But I know when you go over to Europe, like Germany and Sweden and places like that, they've got a big biker thing going on over into Poland and into Eastern Europe and into Russia. Yeah. So because they've got places to roll, like, you know, it's like when I was living in Australia, man, there's a lot of bikers there. Yeah, it just fits that, like America, it fits that environment, doesn't it? It's like you can, if you want to be a rolling stone and you want to do what you want, you can do it. You can't do that in Britain because like you'd roll down the road and you'd be in the next town within 10 seconds.
You see, that is true, but a mate of mine actually did have a run-in with a British charter of Hell's Angels, because he was the manager of a cocktail bar in London called LCC, London Cocktail Club, and they had like a few different LCCs around London, and this one was in Shoreditch. And it was a biker it was like a recreation of like a biker den, you know, and they had all this kind of like Harley Davidsons and but what they had done is they used a real British Hells Angels charter logo on the front of the building. And yeah, like me and my mate had gone down there to just, you know, see our friend who was the guy that was the manager of the place. And he was telling us this story about how the other week these two or three guys had come down, because it was an underground bar. So they come down into this place. It was pretty empty, and they asked for the manager, and they were like proper like leathered up, patches all over their jackets, big burly beards type of guys. And you know, they asked to speak to the manager, which was our mate Patrick. And you know, when he came to them, they were like, "Listen, you've got to take that sign off of the front of your building, because that's our actual patch logo. That's an official patch logo. And there's about 20 lads up there that aren't as patient as us. And if you refuse to do it, we're going to come back tomorrow and we're going to completely destroy your fucking bar." So like, you know, these like three leaders of some British charter of the Hells Angels came down and basically gave this dude an ultimatum to change it. They changed it pretty bloody quick.
I bet they did. Apparently the Hells Angels are really like litigious, yeah. Like they've got like strong legal backing, because they've got the, you know, that font they use for the Hells Angels and all that, yeah. Like that, they've got that copyrighted trademark. So if you try and even use the font and make it look, that's why you have to use a slightly different font if you want to make a kind of biker looking patch.
That's crazy.
I know that. Yeah, the hardcore, yeah. Like I know that when I lived in Oz, my brother-in-law, his little storage unit he had was down in sort of like an industrial area, and the unit next to him was a biker hangout. So you had like his place where he was storing like electrical goods and insulation tape and stuff, yeah. And then across the way you had a place storing like food source, you know, all that sort of stuff. And then you had a biker clubhouse,
just right there.
And like it just had massive electric gates. Like it had a big logo, beautifully made out of perspex, like, you know. And I was like, they weren't there when I went there. Like it was just this biker club that was dead because it was 12 o'clock in the midday or whatever. But he goes, mate, when they turn up, because it's mayhem, yeah, the gates open, all the bikes turn up. There'll be like hundreds of them. Like the unit doors opening, and in they go, doors closed. Just like, you know, no one knows what's going on in there. Yeah, real strong presence, and that's like right in the center of, you know, like suburban Melbourne. Do you know what I mean? Crazy shit.
Have you guys seen?
Cool. I always wanted to go in.
Have you seen the South Park episode about Harley riders?
No.
That's really funny. I can't talk about it because it's way too explicit. But it's,
as always,
it's a very funny. You know, very funny.
My 14-year-old, I haven't watched South Park for quite a while now. Yeah, mate, it is funny as hell. But my 14-year-old the other day just made a quote straight out of South Park. I was like, "It's interesting. You know that quote?" It's not just quite. You can just be straight with me. You've been watching South Park. He goes, "Oh yeah, I've watched nearly all of it. Yeah, because there's like 5,000 seasons. Yeah, like
it's like still on. It's still on.
Yeah,
still putting episodes out.
Just up all night. Yeah, just like respect my authority. Like,
respect my authority.
Dude with the glasses is perfect, Jay. You look just
yeah, the cup glasses. That's it. Yeah, out my cup.
They've made a whole. Yeah, they've got new seasons out with like the pandemic. They're covering like COVID and all that stuff. But did you hear? Did you hear about the insane money they got given, Trey and Matt Parker?
No.
So I'm not kidding you when I say this. Like, it was something to the tune of 900 million that they've been. I'm not kidding. You can. I swear to God, they got paid like 900 million. I think it was by Sony or some massive company to do a huge reboot, like new seasons, video games, like a whole thing, like everything, films, redo the franchise, but they got paid just 100 shy of $1 billion to do this.
What the fuck? And you know those guys, like, in the beginning, they're like, where'd you get all this idea? They're like, acid. Like, we just take a bunch of acid and we sit around. That's like, seriously, all their interviews, that's what they say.
Have you seen the video of them turning up to the awards ceremony completely swinging on acid?
Dresses.
In dresses. Yeah, in dresses.
Yeah, that's brilliant, man. I love those guys.
Let me find this report about it, because I swear it was something like $900 million, man.
That's insane. That's just stupid money.
I was asking my son about it. I was like, so is Chef still in it? He was like, no. I was like, oh yeah, he died, didn't he?
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But he left
Chef
because he was a Scientologist.
Yeah.
Oh, was it? Oh, I forgot Chef was Scientologist.
Isaac Hayes, who played Chef, was a Scientologist, and he got pissed with him for taking the piss out of Scientology all the time, and he left.
No way, is that what happened?
Yeah.
Wow.
He accepted it long enough, and then I don't know what pushed him over the edge. It might have been the Tom Cruise episode or something.
Well, I can't remember. Did you hear that the Scientology? Did you hear how they asked Putoff in that recent interview we were talking about earlier with Weinstein about Scientology, and he was just like, "Oh yeah, that was in the '70s." He's like, "I checked it out," and he said some of their things were pretty cool, but then, you know, I basically disassociated myself with it. Some of the techniques or something, I can't remember. It was something like that. But he was like, yeah. But then he kind of was like, yeah, we had to keep tabs on all that stuff. And he made it seem like it was like his job or an op or something. You know what I mean? It was kind of a weird, like.
Well, apparently they always said, oh, hello, what's this?
Hang on, sorry.
Oh, and this is the $900 billion.
Wow.
Can you see it, or is it?
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah.
Yeah, so South Park has signed massive new $900 million deal with Viacom CBS.
What?
900 million? Jesus, man! Like, seriously,
the creators of South Park have signed a new deal with Viacom. That will pay the $900 million over the next 6 years. One of the richest deals in TV history. Yeah.
What the fuck?
Do you think it costs that much to make, like, you know, DuckTales?
What the fuck? What the fuck cartoon cost that much money? South Park is a 2D animation. They're getting some hush money for something. I think that's some hush money, man. Like, probably don't talk about this in your next episodes. Don't talk about it.
Do your little jokes at the establishment, but not at these people.
Don't bring up Maxwell. Don't bring up Epstein.
That's it. Wow. But you're welcome to do what you like to these guys. You never know, man. It's all part of the big conspiracy.
$900 million, man. What?
I'd take it.
No shit. I would too. I'd take it too. I'd take it right now.
That'd take some of the hard edges off things.
Smooth the old edges of life.
Well, you know what? That's, when you talk about that kind of money, wasn't Greer talking about, like, they came to him and they told him they were going to give him, like, he said it. He did say they were going to give me $500 billion or $500 million or something, right?
It was something outrageous, like a few $100 million.
Like $200 million and whatever, and
he didn't take it.
Well, this is like he was. I know. It's like everyone looks at him as the greedy guy, and apparently he didn't take the $200 million. Like, I don't know about that. I don't know. I feel like Greer might have switched a little bit on that.
Yeah,
there's another bit that keeps popping up of Greer, like, and it's for one of his videos. It always seems to pop up on my feed, man. Like, and I'm not always searching for Greer, I promise, but like,
topless Greer,
like, searching for shirtless photos of Greer.
It's the one where he goes, we can all talk to them, and we do not need a government to do it. And it's just so cheesy. It's like he's suddenly become Oprah. Yeah, it's like, what the hell, man? Like,
we don't need no government to do that.
That's it, yeah. And you do not need a government to do it.
Oh my god!
Don't do it.
Oh man. The thing is, he's right. He is right. It's just that he's fucking up the message. He's just messing up.
Package it better.
You got to talk about it in a less intense way, but he is right. I mean, the fact of the matter is, and I have to just draw upon personal experience. You can do this stuff. You can contact this phenomenon, whatever the hell it is that responds to consciousness. There is something that responds to consciousness. Don't know if it's space aliens or angels or whatever, but
channeling.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, channeling. That's the thing. So like when Duane was getting into channeling with me, I've talked about, and like channeling to me was always like, like, oh, the box, your grandmother is here, and and all that, like it, you know what I mean? And she's like, he wants to speak to you, and I was like, oh, Winston Churchill showed up, and it's like, oh, okay. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm just like,
do you know a Dave? Do you know a Darren?
Darren, yeah, it's a D name. D, Dingo. The dingo ate your baby.
How
damn it?
How do you know?
It's Daryl.
Yeah.
No, but like, I don't know, but and I would have, before I got into the whole RV thing, right? And I know that works because I've tried it, and I would, and the other psychic stuff, I know that works. And the time I had that thing where somebody talked to me and it was inside my head. Now that could have been just like, what do we call it? MK Ultra, or it could have been.
It could.
Or it could have been whatever, right?
Is it clairaudience? Like instead of clairvoyance, like where people are so sensitive to picking up
sound waves.
Signals through sound.
Give it a rest.
There's a lot of people like that.
Yeah. I mean, it could have been any of that shit, but I mean, so I can't really discount it. But at the same time, it's like if things are talking to you, do you believe them? Like, or do you? I mean, it's the same thing,
Depends
right?
what they're telling you. If they're telling you to go and plant a tree and be a good dude and go and high five your kids and be good to your neighbor. If they're telling you to go and murder your neighbors,
well, of course,
to those ones,
right? Of course.
Wait. So I shouldn't listen to that voice.
No, don't do that.
Oh,
no. Yeah, you can't do that one.
Oh, my bad.
Oh, you just got the message.
You just now got a new one, and it was just like,
what was that? Oh my god! Yeah, man. Like, but yeah, I'm totally lost now.
No, I'm just saying, like, I mean, I don't know if I don't want to not believe it, but I don't want to necessarily discount it altogether. I want to believe that whatever the experience those people are having is probably real. And of course there's charlatans, right? Like there's people like Houdini made his goal later on in life to go and like find these people and like go, yeah, this is bullshit. There's a magnet under the chair and whatever. But Leslie Kane went down that whole rabbit hole and she's still down that thing where she swears there was a hand that came out and, of this thing and like all this other stuff. And there's like, there's science behind it. I mean, look at Bigelow spent, I don't know how many millions of dollars, right? Gave it to Mishlove and those other people to try to find out the life after death and all that stuff. So,
yeah, but it's I don't know. I mean, like, I believe there's life after death. I believe there's other dimensions. I believe in all those things. I believe that we're all capable of being psychic. I believe in it all, man. I just do.
Yeah,
from personal experience and from my own research and reading and so on.
Right.
I think they're the more definite things that I could say. I believe in those things, man. Like the other stuff I can't say because I can't prove any of it, And it's all been muddied too much.
Yeah,
like
for
the aliens, man. Like we've talked about this before. It's like we've all seen things in the sky, but none of us could say we know where they were. Like,
right.
Like none of us. Like, and like to go down through the ages and the possibilities and the things that these could be, and none of us might have seen a UFO, or all three of us might have, or we might have all seen UFO black projects, or we might have all inhaled a particle of some psychedelic that had hovered across the cosmos and we saw lights. I don't know what it was, and until anyone could show that, but I do know that I've seen people do RV and. I do know that I've seen people, I've experienced telepathy, and I do know these things. I've experienced them. Whereas the other stuff, it's just always going to be chit chat.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I actually think it makes more sense that there is a conscious component to matter, energy and matter itself, instead of it just being like a generated brain phenomenon. Like, I think that it makes more sense in terms of a logical approach because. And I've been thinking about this more, and I'm like writing down some thoughts about it because, a material reductionist will say that matter itself is kind of blind, unintelligent, and it's just collisions over time have created chemical mixes, which have created, over time us. We've emerged out of this primordial soup. But the thing is, how do you get intelligence without intelligence being in some way encoded within the developmental process of nature? I mean, how does intelligence arise out of non-intelligence? I think it's more sensible to say that there's some substrate of intellect or conscious encoding within energy itself that coalesces and forms into human beings and other forms of expression within nature. Mm-hmm. I feel like and you know, all you have to do is look at nature itself, and there's such rich examples of intelligence, the way that plants adapt and, you know, against each other in their environments, and the way that animals evolve and the way that we've evolved. And we as human beings, I mean, I would, you know, I look at a human being a bit like a biological quantum computer. And the thing is, you know, a computer is just pieces of components put together. So you could say that those components aren't intelligent. You know, they themselves aren't intelligent, but when you put them together in the right way, they can become this amazing thing, a quantum computer. But you still needed an intelligence to put those components together. A human being built that computer. So the same can be said, I feel, for us. We're such a complex like quantum computer, like this amazing, weird biological structure. It just feels to me that it's impossible for something like a human being to arise out of the framework of reality without there being some sort of encoding reality. Yeah. Without the
well, I feel that, man. Like the idea that maybe we're just avatars for experience for some other greater being, or for the same being that we all are, like the experiences, or we're AI ourselves, like really advanced. And how do you make the best AI? You make it think it's natural. I mean, I look at our fingerprints, and it always blows me away. I look at the fact that I can, a dentist pre-DNA could take dental matter and identify an individual, or you could take a fingerprint, and every single person is different. It's like a computer. It's like silicon chips almost. I look at it and just go, you know, and like, you know, in your darkest days, like, you know, any people who've ever experienced depression or anything like that, it might have been antidepressants. Like, you might have that feeling of numbness where all of a sudden, like, it's really hard to feel really happy, or it's hard to feel really sad. It's that idea that all of a sudden, like, your connection to something more beautiful has kind of been numbed out. Like, that's my feeling sometimes. Like that feeling that it was maybe almost like an experience where you just go, the joy mechanism has just been cancelled out. Or the extreme pain mechanism, and now it's like it's a reprogram. And like,
that's a great way to say it. It's reprogramming.
I just and I think it is a lot like that. The more I'll tell you what, man, the fingerprints thing, like, it's like, why have we all got different fingerprints, and why are they all different, and why are they like that? Like, everything just looks built. The more I look at it, the more I understand what the concept of reality. Well, not understand, or I have a better grasp of other philosophies and other writers and other thinkers' ideas of reality, that I can't just look at myself and just be like, this just came from nowhere. It looks really intelligently built, Well, like, you know, obviously it is, but down to the fact that our skin looks like circuitry. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like the wires inside you, the veins, the arteries, the capillaries, like all it's like a. Well, that's why I think I look at the human being like a weird biological computer, like a circuit board of organic information exchange. We use electrochemical signals. We produce a coronal discharge. We're electric beings. We're like these weird buzzing receptors or computers, you know?
Yeah, we are. And I think that what I really, really want to hope, if that is the case, is that the feelings of the consciousness element of what we are, there's something deeper that's fueling us, that spark, I hope that isn't programmed.
I don't think it is.
I don't think so either. The thing is, because everybody's so different. I mean, like you're saying, Jay, you watch The Contact, and it's emotional. Things drive you. You have different feelings where, you know, and I think that's the inherent difference between all of us, where, like, you guys watch Dark and I couldn't watch it because that just one scene just flipped me out. And that was just because this guy beat the shit out of this kid with a brick. And I was like, fuck this, I can't watch it. It made me very upset, emotionally upset. And I know it was a fake, and you know what I mean? But for me, I was like, fuck, I can't get past that. You know what I mean? So I think all of this we have our own own connections,
This is like one of the profound mysteries to me. It's like, science, even though we use science as the best way of explaining reality, science has no idea how to explain the most intricate and most important part of our reality, which is how we feel emotionally, how we respond intuitively, our life experiences, love, up and downs, all of the things that kind of fit into the mosaic of forming your actual experience. These are things that science can't quantify. These are the realms of the intuition. This is the realm of self-reflection, looking back on your life, seeing patterns, seeing signs. And that's the thing that can't be done by science. These things need to combine together in some way, because the most important aspects of our life are not being addressed through rational, materialistic, reductionist kind of, physics and observation of reality objectively through our current medium. It's not occupying enough of a space that allows for us to really translate the most profound areas of our life, which is how we navigate emotionally through it and our life experience,
But I mean, like when you talk about it in terms of the way we react. So when people have done brain scans and various other tests, like I don't know what they're called, but like where you can measure dopamine levels popping off and serotonin popping off and adrenaline pumping and for certain different things, and it makes you feel a different way. Yeah. Like your brain suddenly will deliver a chemical to make you feel a different way.
Right.
Now, some of it's learned. Yeah. Like some of it's learned, like the idea that, like people like feel comfort. Most people are going to feel comfort cuddled by somebody because of maternal instincts, the feelings of being a kid and knowing that there's that nurturing element.
I love a good cuddle. Love a good cuddle.
Yeah. And I wish you guys were here. I'd cuddle all of you. Yeah.
Like, and for, it's like that song, man. Everybody needs a bosom for a pillow, yeah.
Oh, I love that song.
Everybody needs a bosom for a pillow. Everybody needs a bosom.
But everyone needs a bosom for a pillow because most people, everyone had a mother. Most people probably got cuddled and used those bosoms as pillows, man. It's a good feeling. Right. So what I'm trying to say is, like, and that's learned, innit? So most of these feelings and the way things pump off, I've probably learned. It's like, oh, I'm cold, and now I'm not cold, and now I've got this, and now I'm happy, and she gave it to me, so I love her for it, and that's what I feel. So this feeling is now love, and keeps going like that. That's the only one I can really describe when it's your parent, like your mother. It's that one, isn't it? Like that link to your mother as a baby. But it is weird because if you do take it down simply to that, learned experiences create pop-offs in your brain that make you feel a certain way, which make your existence more interesting. Because if you weren't having those things popping off, you'd just be an automaton. So that's what I was saying about the antidepressant stuff. When you get people who are doped out because they're bipolar or whatever it may be, they can't, their eyes are too high or they're too low or whatever it may be, then they get leveled out. And there's that, a lot of artists say sometimes that's when they lose their creative spins. Their spirit, their mojo. And like some people get to the point where they're all right, they're not going to kill themselves anymore, man, and they're also not going to run down the street screaming with joy. So there's that leveling out, and it gets to that point where it's like, oh, well, some people say, is that even in existence? Because without the highs and lows and the feelings of those chemicals, you're on a very boring ride.
And the thing is, people who don't have the perspective of maybe like a spiritual inclination or just a very material reductionist perspective would say, oh, well, this is all just sensory data and it's electrochemical stimulus and it's exchanges within the brain and this is what's cool. But for me, it's kind of like, but why? Why is that happening in the first place? Why am I having these complex chemicals that provide emotional resonance, that provides me the love for my mother, or like, these things? Why does this happen? That to me is the issue with the way that the scientific approach looks at it, is they just boil it down to like, oh, it's these functions. It's like, yeah, but why are these functions doing that? Why are these doing it in the first place?
It's easy for them to understand those. Science. They need metaphysics. They need to bring some faith, not faith, that's the wrong word. They need to bring some
DMT.
Spirituality, DMT. Some serious psychedelic drugs into the mix, and everything will be fine.
They need to just slam some DMT into them. No, but it's like, honestly though, I mean, this is what I like about the fact that psychedelics are coming back in terms of like serious studies. That I think that this is a missing component. I really do, especially, they're starting to find out that things like LSD and Even psilocybin, they're not necessarily introducing a psychedelic component into your brain. They're activating pre-existing parts of your brain that create a psychedelic experience, which to me says it's all there, dormant. It's already, the transcendental meditation of the monks. That stuff can get you to those psychedelic spaces. This just happens to do it a little bit faster and a little bit easier for most people.
It's a massive shortcut.
Right. And this is the thing I have an issue with when people say, oh, you shouldn't do it because meditation's a more pure way. It's like, right, I get you. It's an admirable feat to want to discipline yourself to do that meditation, but not everyone's in that kind of headspace. But if you give a very skeptical person an extremely strong psychedelic experience, they may come out of that like Wim Hof, mate, and start being like, that's it, I'm done. Like I'm devoting my life to the spiritual cause. But you wouldn't get that if you said, look, just sit down, try and get the chatter out of your mind, just breathe. They'd be like, I'm so done, shut up, I don't care. So I think that people need to recognize, and this is something that Terence said, is that psychedelics are a democratic way of getting into these spaces. It's freely available, everyone can experience it, and it can lead into you incorporating things like meditation into your life, And
in a world so spiritually devoid as ours, modern Western one, like, it's something that reinvigorates that,
right? Capitalize on consciousness in any way possible. Whatever way increases consciousness, we should focus on it. If it's drugs, if it's meditation, even if it's technology, if it's increasing consciousness, we should focus on that shit.
Well, I mean, the idea of the psychonaut, exploring that other realms, like the idea you can actually go and do this stuff enough and become adept at mapping out other realities almost.
Right.
I mean, that is like, isn't that not like, what's the Star Trek saying? Go place, what is it? What did it say in Star Trek?
Boldly go where no man has gone before.
Just take it inside as opposed to out there.
Well,
in a space.
And also, why is there so many similarities with psychedelic experiences, like experiencing flying saucers and ETs, like a very alien, especially with magic mushrooms on high doses? That seems to be one. Obviously, this is just a generalization, and people have different experiences. But it seems like with DMT, people can find themselves in a more, or with ayahuasca, I should say specifically. With ayahuasca specifically, it's very much Mother Earth. It's very much the rivers, the tribes, the Amazon. It's the jungle. That's what people seem to get a very strong sense of when they take ayahuasca. But then on high levels of like psilocybin, it's aliens, it's things communicating with you. It doesn't stop talking. That's one thing that Terence said, is that the mushroom just doesn't shut up. Like, he's had so many experiences with LSD and DMT, and you don't hear this thing, but the mushroom talks to you, really talks to you. And like, I find that interesting, and I wonder if is there a shared space between the psychedelic and the space-time dimension the idea that you can manipulate dimensions of space and time, and you might have a vehicle that can traverse those dimensions? Is the psychedelic space a dimension? Is like, I kind of think the imagination could be seen as a dimension, because we imagine these things in our mind, like, different ideas or maybe even inventions, and then we materialize them into physical reality. It's like we're a bridge between an immaterial dimension and a material dimension. We can think things in our head and then draw them into reality and manifest them through creative expression, through building or innovation or painting or whatever. It all comes through this weird realm. We have like access to like a hyperspace inside our mind, and that's where ideas come from. Is that the
psychedelics? Does it turn it on? Does that turn on the antenna?
That's it. Is that realm real? Is the imaginary realm the realm where we bring all of our ideas through? Everything that's an idea comes through that realm of the imagination and then comes into physical reality. Is that real? Is it a dimensional space? And can these flying saucers, can these UFOs go through that space?
Like the brain, like it starts buzzing, doesn't it, under psychedelics, and huge amounts of it wakes up, so usually dormant, like you were saying.
Oh, it lights up.
The idea that like a lot of people are going their entire lives without a lot of that stuff being stimulated, unless someone introduces themselves to psychedelic mushrooms or DMT, and usually the only time it's going to become stimulated is probably during sleep, of small amount, and death. So like, but the theory that once wasn't dormant, say it's an evolutionary thing where it's become dormant, because imagine the reality of what you saw always being like an extreme psychedelic trip, you'd probably be like, this is just amazing. But then you'd probably die because you're unable, you'd never be able to catch that tiger, man, or that wildebeest for your dinner, because you'd just be lying there just going, oh. Like, so like there must be some evolutionary need.
Do you imagine people that are just like that all the time, though? That are just like, whoa. I mean, I've met people like that.
You know, they were the sages and the shamans. They were the crazy ones. But
you're right.
The ones that would sit there and talk to their shadows all day were the ones that were put into a tent, and they were, they were in their own little encampment, like the weird shaman, and they were crazy people. They were usually schizophrenics, the
guy who wants to wake and bake like every day and then have a nice mush, it's like some people, nowadays you were bum for doing that, like back then,
you were the shaman.
Respected. It's like amazing.
But it does make you think that the way that we treat people now that may have been treated as shamans in the past is, we as a Western culture, very different. I mean, we just throw them away as crazy people. Oh, they're just crazy people. But back in the day, they were the ones that were maybe communing with different energies, and so they were hearing voices in their head because they were hearing 10 different spirits or something. At least that's how it was interpreted.
Let's go back to like one of the very first things we talked about was the idea you got this Catholic sect doing the same stuff. I mean, there might not be any drugs that they talk about in it, but they're communing with the cosmos. And get messages from the cosmos, but they call it angels as opposed to shamanic messages coming from you know what I'm saying,
or demons.
So it's the same stuff, isn't it? And aliens, and then you take it to Tyler D from the book, talking to these beings or getting information in the morning as he has his coffee, and he's not taking like massive amounts of ayahuasca, or not that he's saying anyway, but but it's the same stuff, in it. It's that whole idea. I'm just going to sit here and I'm going to tune into the knowledge. And maybe that's all. Maybe that's all it is. Maybe all this stuff that we're looking for is simply just accepting that that's what it is. It's all there. Like, I don't know. But it's hard to trust that voice, isn't it? If you actually want to try that stuff yourself and actually start going, I want to try and pull some information out of that place. Yeah. And believe me, I've tried.
Look at Jack Parsons.
I guess I would probably say that it's one of those things where you're not going to get it if you're trying, right? It's that intuitive flow. I mean, I recognize that for, like, let's say I'm playing the guitar behind me or something, and you get to a point where you're not actually thinking about which chord you need to worry about, and it's just happening. It's just flowing through you. That to me is when you're just kind of becoming this channel for something else expressing through you. And you recognize that when people bring out inspiring films or artwork or music or invention. Nikola Tesla, what a fantastic example of someone that was drawing from the intuitive well of human creativity. And I love that quote from him where he says that there is a core in the universe from which all creative inspiration and innovation originates, but I have not found I have not discerned the location of this core, but I know that it exists. And I love that quote because it's someone who's a brilliant scientist. He understood the scientific method, but he also appreciated that these innovations and ideas were coming from a far more mysterious place, some deep well, and he was just channeling it. But then he had the logic capability to construct things in the physical world out of that intuitive information. He was a true channeler, I think. Channeler.
Yeah.
We're coming right back to channeling.
He really went whole hog though, didn't he? Like celibate, possibly self castrated.
Really? Man went crazy.
Apparently, like a big part of that sort of channeling information like that and taking it back to the alchemical stuff, like transmuting the human spirit, is well, people just running in and out of my room. Something too weird whilst I'm here. The idea that a lot of that is a matter of using better channeling of sexual energies. We've talked about this before, haven't we?
Kundalini energy and all that. Yeah.
You're always trying to bring that sexual energy,
So I find it. I do find it interesting how much it comes up, man. Like when you actually follow it, like sex. Like so, basically, like But what they believed, for example, Sir Isaac Newton, the same, yeah. Apparently, he died a virgin. They believe they channeled their sexual energies into innovation and into contact or drawing information from the ether. So that idea,
well, even Isaac Newton was talking about that. I didn't know Isaac Newton did that.
Celibate. Sir Isaac Newton went on, into alchemy. He's one of those guys.
Yeah.
Royal
Transmutation
Society.
of your chi to I've been following that where you can rises up to your brain. And it goes, I think Robert Seffer had a video where he was talking about it too or whatever, but I remember that. And I could never figure it out when I was, I could never figure it out when I was boxing. It was all those things that were always talking about women weakened legs. And I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, don't have sex before we fight. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And they're like, no, seriously, don't do it. And it was kind of based on the same thing where you have to harness your energy, your chi or whatever, like that.
It's pretty common now with like a lot of athletes. Like they don't, and their managers and stuff will encourage the footballers not to have their wives with them before competition, and it's harness that energy, man. So it's been known about in sports for a long time. So the channeling of sexual energies into other energy,
or intelligence or something,
or invention or innovation, and like Tesla apparently had his own knob off to stop any.
Who?
Yeah, temptations.
He cut his own junk off.
Who?
Yeah,
who?
Tesla, supposedly.
Tesla cut his own dick off.
He came from a family whose sect as well were called Skepticism. And they believed in a lot of this kind of crazy shit too. If you do a bit of reading into where his background was, coming out of Serbia and stuff like that, there was a sect of people called the Skepticism who believed in a lot of that stuff. So check it out.
I thought he just cut his balls off. I don't think he cut his dick off, did he?
I'm gonna say, how do you maintain a tradition if you're cutting everyone's balls off? Right? There's got to be one that doesn't have their balls cut off.
He took it to the extreme. There were certain people who go down that level where it's like, I am now going to go the full whole hog. I'm going to be Skepticism. I'm not going to claim I know too much about Skepticism, but yeah, it's true. But
let's make it happen.
I don't know if it's true that there was some myth that somebody had his John Thomas stored in a jar somewhere.
I'm loving all of the
2022
that you're coming out with.
We're we're coast to coast around the world looking for Tesla's dick in a jar.
That's it.
I have irrefutable evidence that the FBI has stolen Tesla's dick. Okay, I know it.
No shit.
There are a few, they've got that. They've got it on ice. It's right next to Walt Disney's brain. Tesla's dick, Walt Disney's brain.
It's got flames tattooed inside.
Yeah. It should be like lightning bolts or something, like electricity.
Yeah, electricity.
Yeah.
Hey, I have no idea if it's true that Tesla cut his dick off, but that's what I've read on a couple of occasions.
Conspiracy that we're starting. Yeah,
Andrea Purich is the one who said that publicly.
Oh, yeah, there you go. That's a guy that would not know or know.
Did you say you've got to run off now, John?
I do. I'm sorry. My wife will actually cut my balls off and my dick if I don't go upstairs and help out.
Oh no, we can't lose Tesla's dick and yours in one night.
Not in the same day. Right. Not in the same night. No.
Well, it's been fun.
I love you guys.
Yeah,
I love you too, John. I love you too.
It's been fun.
Come to me, baby. I love you. I love you all.
Send me a copy of this recording if you can once you got it loaded up. Yeah, man.
I will. I think the teaser clip is going to be
Tesla's dick.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the teaser. Is just fucking Tesla dick is in a jar. So everybody's going to be like, "What the fuck?" Jean-Luc, you got to do like a Photoshop of like a jar with Tesla's dick floating or something.
That's it. We've really hit the lowest levels now. We're scraping the bottom of the barrel.
Jay's got the fucking digital glasses the whole entire time. Fucking floating dick. Fucking it. I love it. I love you guys. We'll talk to you real soon, huh?
Peace.
Yeah. Peace out.
Peace.